Okay. So, I just wanted to play this because number one, you should all go watch the full interview. But number two, I want you all to know we've talked about this so many times, okay? And I know this doesn't win me any favorability points on left leaning folks generally, but third party voting just isn't a thing, okay? You can vote third party. Does it do anything? No, not really, no. The Green Party hasn't won shit in years. And it only operates as a spoiler. That's it. And it's so painfully obvious. Jill Stein just has no plan. There's no plan. All they do is go up in front of the nation every so often and say, hey, we'll do only good things and give you candy. And everyone's like, well, I like only good things and getting candy, so I guess some of us will vote for you. And the issue is there's no plan to do any of those good things. There's no methodology of how to achieve those good things. There's no ability for them to actually wield power because they don't have the infrastructure to wield power. They can't win local level elections, let alone state level elections, let alone national level elections. And they're so comically inept that they will mess up getting on the ballot in certain states. In a lot of ways, the Libertarian Party has its shit more together than the Greens. And that's saying something, because literally 2 days ago, one of the members of their leadership that runs the New Hampshire Libertarian Party Twitter account tweeted out a call to assassinate Kamala Harris, then subsequently received a visit from the FBI, which was an entirely foreseeable thing. But the Libertarian Party, that has guys like that in it, fuck up less than the Green Party, okay? And I gotta be honest with you, they don't have plans to actually achieve any of the things, right? Like, that's one of the things that Bernie Sanders did and did very well, is he actually came up with plans that could be enacted. Ways to actually leverage power. Policies that people might be able to put forward and vote on, that had detailed plans and language involved in them, not just, we'll do the good thing. There's such an obvious follow-up to that. The follow-up is how? How will you do the good thing? That's a really, really important thing to do. And the thing that infuriates me in particular is that if these third parties were actually interested in achieving political power, in building up community power and people power and being able to actually achieve goals, getting on the ballot in every state, for example, they would organize to get ranked choice voting passed. Because that way they can actually have a shot at wielding real political power. If you want to break the two-party duopoly, you can't just... the presidential election isn't it. It doesn't do anything. You just act as a spoiler. And so, what do? Well, you build up state and local power to get legislation passed or to get amendments passed in each state to change the way voting is done so that it's ranked choice, which actually gives third parties a shot at winning elections. So that's really obvious to me. And yet we have so many different political commentators, Brianna Joy Gray, for example, who will go out there and say, oh, well, don't vote for Kamala Harris, vote for Jill Stein. And Cornel West, whose campaign didn't have its shit together and had to run on 3 or 4 different parties, and then he's going anti-vax. All I'm saying is, these people are not serious. They don't have actual plans to win or to wield power. And so, if you think that they are genuine in their positions, you need to examine, how are they trying to get from point A to point B? So, how are you getting from point A to point B? These third parties don't have that plan. Guys, have you ever heard a third-party candidate talk about how they're going to get anything done in Congress? How many congressional seats? How many? Never. You never hear about this. There's no plan whatsoever. And so when I hear stuff about like, oh yes, we'll just do X, Y, or Z, with what power? The bully pulpit? Is that the best you can do? It's just that there's no institutional will to support a third party because you haven't built up institutional power, something that can only be done with a different voting system, in something you can get, but you have to win it on a state-by-state basis. So there's all of that. And I just want to say, I think you should all check out the hour-long interview that Zateo put out with Jill Stein and Mehdi Hasan. Mehdi Hasan put out a brief preview of that interview. We'll go over it in a minute here. But I just really want to emphasize that there is no proposals or plans. These are deeply unserious people who want you to, frankly, to use your vote to enrich themselves. That's what they want to do. That's the only real shot they have in this race. And they'll do it off the enthusiasm and disaffection of voters. And I don't know, I think there's something pretty scummy about that, actually. Does Cornel West even have a VP candidate? Yeah. So here's Jill Stein being confronted by Mehdi Hasan.
Every vote that's cast for Kamala Harris or for Donald Trump is an endorsement of genocide. It is an affirmation of genocide.
Lay out for me the steps whereby I go into a voting booth, vote green, and the genocide stops.
Let me put
I don't
it
see
very
that happening.
Clearly. We are creating a very organized coalition that is here for the long haul.
That's right. They were Democrats that were sending cops to campuses to beat up kids on my campus, okay? Coming in riot gear to remove people from encampments.
Yeah. When people were dying en masse from COVID, when he was praising Nazis, doing domestic terrorism, as Butch says, did you ever at any point say, maybe I got that one wrong?
Oh, no.
You said in November 2015, as Assad and Putin were massacring Syrians in their tens of thousands, quote, the US should be working with Syria, Russia, and Iran to restore all of Syria to control by the government. That's the Assad government.
That was an unapproved statement, which was taken down the moment it was...
You seem to have a lot of things online that you don't approve. Would you tell your supporters at home, vote green everywhere, but in those 3 swing states, vote against a domestic terrorist?
I would say...
Man's got some good questions, all right? And frankly, they're questions that Jill Stein is poorly equipped to answer. I mean, here's another clip that Mehdi Hasan put out.
We looked at your social media, and you haven't done that many posts specifically calling out Russian attacks on civilian areas. You haven't called Vladimir Putin a war criminal, but you have called Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal.
No, actually we did.
Yeah.
In my very first remarks about the Ukraine war, we condemned...
Vladimir Putin's a war criminal in your view.
Yes, we did
and Bashar al-Assad's a war criminal.
Yes, in so many words. Yes, we have said as much.
Many words?
So
you called Netanyahu one, which I think he is.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
Is Putin a war criminal?
So what we said about Putin was that his invasion of Ukraine is criminal. It's a criminal and murderous war.
And he's a war criminal who should be on trial.
Well, by implication.
You're struggling here to say something very simple. This is why people have their doubts about you in Russia.
Well,
why is Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal but not Vladimir Putin?
Well, as John F. Kennedy said, we must not be afraid to, we must not negotiate out of fear, and we must not fear to negotiate.
Yeah, she's sweating crazy to a very simple question.
So if you want to be an effective world leader, you don't start by name-calling and hurling epithets.
So how will President Stein negotiate with Israel then if you've called Netanyahu a war criminal?
Well, because he very clearly is a war criminal.
So Putin clearly isn't a war criminal?
Well, we don't have a decision, put it this way, by the International Criminal Court.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
actually, actually you're wrong. There's
Man's got some good questions, all right? And frankly, they're questions that Jill Stein is poorly equipped to answer.
There isn't yet an arrest warrant for Netanyahu. So why is Putin not a war criminal but Netanyahu is?
Yeah.
I love that Mehdi Hasan does corrections on the fly like that. It's real nice to see. It's a real journalism move.
I think they're both
let me say this. We are sponsoring that war. We are sponsoring Netanyahu.
That's our war.
He is our dog in this fight. That is why we have a responsibility.
No disagreement from me at all. But that does not answer my question.
With Russia,
he even thinks it's ridiculous. He's starting to laugh in the middle of it. He can't believe how hard of a time she's having with this.
Whether we sponsor them or not is irrelevant. Either you're a war criminal or you're not. Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
In so many words, yes, he is.
I don't know what so many words are. Butch, is Vladimir...
How can she keep saying that?
Putin a war criminal.
Let me say that whatever you think he is, if you want to pull him
It doesn't matter
back...
what I think. I'm asking what you
well,
think. You're running for president.
if you
I'm
are
not.
a world leader, you don't begin your conversation by calling someone a war criminal unless
So why
you
have you called
a
Biden
clear,
and Netanyahu war criminals?
Because we have a clear strategy, and we have a court
Is
across the
Bashar
world
al-Assad and Vladimir
community.
Putin war criminals in your view?
It's really easy to say yes. She's a literal Russian paid psyop. I would not be surprised. Honestly, that was a shocking level of evasion. I hope that was fairly obvious to everyone watching exactly how slimy that was. Why is she covering for Putin? Well, we just unearthed that a bunch of conservative commentators were on the take from Russia. Would not surprise me if she got certain amounts of funding from Russia. I don't know. I don't know, guys. But yeah, guess who came to dinner with Flynn and Putin? NBC News reviewed video and photos from a 2015 Moscow gala that Mike Flynn was paid $45,000 to attend to see who else was in the room. And boy howdy, that's Jill Stein right there. And that's Vladimir Putin. Huh. That's so weird. That's so weird. Oh, what's that? We have more weird things from 2018. Russians launched pro-Jill Stein social media blitz to help Trump win election, reports say. Weird. So strange. God. So, yeah, I think it's fairly obvious that some of the worst forces in America, in the world, are playing off of people's best intentions when it comes to voting third party. I knew you'd get to the Jill Stein-Putin connection. Yeah, I mean, they're taking a lot of people's best intentions and giving an illusion of a third way. But there's no real there. It's always been money laundering bullshit. And frankly, I'm so sick of it. I'm so done with it. If you want third-party power, there's only one way out. There's one way out. And that is getting ranked choice voting, okay? Glad this is being brought up. I knew someone in DC who ran for Green Party, and she pointed out that a lot of the Green Party is empowered by Russia. Yeah, it just seems like there are people out there, and I would say DSA falls into this category, that understands the need to build power, the need to actually interface with how real-world politique works. And then there are just people who have good intentions who fritter their lives away for organizations that purely exist to get people speaking fees and to give people a false hope and profit off of them. It's sad. And also it robs us of some of the people who would be most motivated to change our current system if they had an effective avenue to do so. Hey, Blue Witch. Full disclosure, during my organizing for Occupy Seattle in 2011, I was convinced to vote Stein in 2012, but have since come to my senses. Yeah, I mean, I understand the impulse. It sucks to be faced with a lesser of two evils situation. No one wants to be in that situation, and yet we are constantly in that position. And that is because politics is a game of triage and choosing which problem to tackle next. It is, we are in a hospital scenario and we do not have enough medicine to treat everyone. So we need to do the best we can with what we have. That is politics. There's no easy way to fix things. Exactly. Well, we're gonna get to more realpolitik in a bit. Don't you guys go anywhere. All right.
My main problem is that third parties are not doing the groundwork for local offices. They are not interested in building power.
Exactly, Simric. I will say that this is exactly why it's painfully obvious to me that these third parties do not give a damn. I think individuals within them care, but they don't necessarily know how to build and wield that power. They do things on a wish and a prayer. If the organizations were interested in building power, that's what they would do. But there's a very clear set of incentives to being the fringe third party. Mostly that you never actually have to deliver on any of your promises. If your entire position is built on just existing in opposition to the current order of the current system, you don't actually have to present any kind of real solution when you aren't called upon under the budgets of material reality to actually deliver one. How many seats are held by the Green Party? How many elected officials? Here we go. Here is a full list of every elected Green Party member, okay? 144 hold elected office in 20 states across the United States. That's 144 total. But you'll notice something. Della Coburn, City Council, Tribal Council, Governing Board, Mayor, City Council, College Board of Trustees, Elementary School District. These are like, they're not meaningful positions of power. We're talking one person in the entire state of Arizona. We're talking 3 people in the entire state of Alaska, and we're not even talking 3 people in the same city, on the same city council. They haven't even built up the power to do anything in one city. Okay? It isn't even really, you can't even make a claim of building up local power with numbers this. 10 in Connecticut. Oh, look at Maine. Okay, Maine. Again, it's a lot of board members, council members. But maybe the Green Party has been doing work in Maine. Maybe that's where they've been putting all of their effort, because that seems to be where the plurality of all of their membership comes from. Being serious, how do we change Harris's policies when she's come out against an arms embargo on Israel? Only supports a temporary ceasefire, banned any Palestinian from the DNC, has said she'll have Republicans in her cabinet, and has been endorsed by fucking Dick Cheney. Well, so a couple of things is, one, you continue to protest. You continue to exert pressure. And I think that definitely is more influential during an election cycle. And number 2, yeah, Maine does have ranked choice voting. But number 2, frankly, a lot of the, and maybe this is me being too hopeful, grain of salt, all that, the people she's been bringing on to actually enact foreign policy stuff are people who have been vocally against the way Biden has been approaching it. The people who've resigned in protest consider Kamala Harris to be like the best one in a position of power on this issue, and are marginally more hopeful with her in charge. The people who are committed to voicing their concerns to the point where they quit their jobs, trashed their political career, think that she's decent on it. The other thing I will put out there is that, and I've talked about this before, I think that in the position she's in, I'm not sure if she could talk about it while maintaining the kind of coalition she has built and is relying on to win. So there's an element of realpolitik here where I think that if she does start saying that she wants an end to Netanyahu's regime, she wants Netanyahu arrested, pledges to rescind the political protection the United States provides him, diplomatic protection, and she comes out against Netanyahu in the strongest possible terms. You imagine. How do you think Netanyahu will react to that? He wants Donald Trump to win. They just did an explosive operation against thousands of people across across the Hezbollah organization, and the threat of regional war is already very high. I would not put it past Netanyahu to expand the war across the entire Middle East. So, all of that being said, I think we need to take a look at what the political scenario is that's unfolding a bit closer to home as well. So, my condensed answer to that, I guess, is that I think she can be moved. I think she's more movable on this issue than Biden was or ever will be. Does that mean she's going to move? That remains to be seen. She's not in a position to actually enact any kind of policy changes, and I think that anything she says that would come out more strongly against Netanyahu would probably backfire pretty poorly in a very tangible way across the Middle East. So I think that we're not really going to get a clear answer to what her actual positions are and thoughts are on Gaza until either much closer to the election or afterwards. That's kind of where we're at. I don't think we have an accurate view of whatever her policy position is yet, and I don't think we're going to get it until we're closer to the election. I am right there with you, though. Totally unforced error fucking over Palestinians at the DNC. But I think I think we need to take a step back. okay? We need to take a step back and acknowledge that we are right now living through a bit of interesting times. And one of the main issues that I think we all have to actually contend with is that the fascism is no longer purely limited in scope to the politically brain poisoned ourselves. And I think we need to contend with the fact that we've kind of moved into what is the life or death struggle phase of liberalism and fascism. That's where we're at right now. And so when you see Republicans endorsing Kamala Harris, for instance, that's a symptom of that. When 19 or 20 Reaganite politicians endorse Kamala Harris, that's a symptom of where our political crisis is at. Yeah, we're at the something's happening part of nothing ever happens. And it is, I think, really important to take and pay attention to. This is kind of why I've been covering the Venezuelan gang story and the Haitian refugee story, and why we're going to talk about Haitian refugees today at length. And it's because this is kind of like a catalyzing moment for the fascism that Donald Trump is producing in America. What the fascist movement is and how it's going to manifest. Because I think what we're seeing is kind of the rise of Trump's brown shirts. That's what we're looking at here. I played this clip before, but we're going to play it again. This is the clip that spawned they're eating cats and dogs. This is the kind of talking point that wound up being repeated by the President of the United States within like 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, it went from being said at a Springfield City Commission meeting to coming from the lips of the President of the United States.
Nathaniel Higgers of Blood Pride. I was at the head
Blood Pride, by the way, is a Nazi organization.
Of the anti-Haitian immigration march earlier this month. I'm sure the Honorable Mr. Rob Rue recognizes me, considering he supposedly knew of our action before we even arrived.
He's a literal Nazi. He marched with swastikas.
First of all, I would like to dispel the myth that you knew of our march and intentionally had no reaction or made no forewarning about it as a preventative measure. You had no more idea than the police officers or Haitians, and it's frankly insulting to our organization to make such a claim. Second, I've come to bring a word of warning. Stop what you're doing before it's too late. Crime and savagery will only increase with every Haitian you bring in. And with it, public frustration and anger.
You sound threatening to me. I'm gonna
Based on the comments
if I could
tonight,
ask the police to go ahead.
I'm sure I don't need to tell you that.
Just sound threatening if you go ahead and just peacefully be removed.
These people didn't ask for this. And they deserve better than to have to put up with violent,
Thank you
unruly
so much.
outsiders.
You're done. Thank you. That's all. Thank you so much. Not really thank you, but...
What you have seen in the past week or so has been the virulent mainstreaming of that guy's rhetoric as a result of the President of the United States.
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
He's talking about the Haitian refugees. He's talking about this story. So he's talking about refugees, the Haitian refugees. And I want to talk about that for a second because they're in Springfield because Springfield requested them to be there. Haitian refugees in the United States come here because of the protected status that they've been given as migrant workers following horrific earthquakes that struck the country. And that program has continued. Blood Tribe is a neo-Nazi group. Yes. The guy that you heard speak was a Nazi, and now it's just gotten to the biggest Nazi in the country, Donald Trump. And you might say, oh, but Jack, you're not being fair. I'm sorry, did you miss this? Did you miss this where he was talking about legal migrants in the country as if they were subhuman?
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
I challenge any conservative that winds up watching this. How is that not just Hitler shit? How is that not fascist rhetoric? Explain to me.
Sorry to undercut the seriousness of this. Was listening, but shared a bunch of pics of my new babes in disc.
Aw,
It's important to stay soft while going hard.
Well, thank you for the 5 gifted subs, Charlotte Nova, and for sharing your cute Babby pics. So, what I'm trying to get at here, guys, is we're in a whole new ball game. We've seen the creeping, climbing claws of fascism coming towards us for a while now, and all I have to say here is that it's here now. Donald Trump has been a fascist the entire time, right? But I feel he's now catalyzed into the point of no return, where we've crossed the Rubicon. We're in different territory now, and we're in this kind of a world right now.
And look, just to address your point about Harris, I just don't agree. I mean, the underpinning of her campaign, I mean, she repeats it herself. Trump will be a dictator on day one. I mean, this country fights dictators. That's what our history is. We fight dictators.
Didn't he say that?
He'll be a dictator. There'll be a bloodbath.
It's just a complete rejection of reality. There is no real hinge on the proper world. It doesn't matter what Trump said. It doesn't matter because Kamala Harris is repeating his words, and that's mean. That's the real mean thing. We're not in the real world anymore when it comes to where we're at with conservative politics. They've created their alternate reality where they deny facts and science. They live in a world of propaganda. And that propaganda is giving legs and rise to insane stories here. The fear-mongering over Haitian migrants, it's not just the Haitian migrants either, guys. It's everywhere across the country where there's a marginalized group of people in any given community. It doesn't matter if they're black, they could be Hispanic, okay? This is why I've also been talking about the Venezuelan gangs.
We're getting dangerously close to 100% Hitler territory here. We have historical precedent. Why can't we just call them what they are?
No, well, first off, Winby, thank you for the 2 gifted tier 1 subs. But also, we're not dangerously close to Hitler territory. What I'm trying to say is we've hit the point of 100% Hitler territory. This guy's going in front of his audience that views him as a Christ figure and calling for the largest mass deportation in history. And when you consider what the logistics that implies, the camps, the infrastructure for holding people, the police state, what you're talking about is that's just Hitler shit, okay? It's just what Hitler was doing prior to opening up the death camps. And so this is what I'm trying to say. I'm worried about bomb threats and terror waves during the election. You should be. Because that's exactly what's happening in Springfield, Ohio right now. Okay? Haitian Americans in Springfield, Ohio fear for their lives amid Trump's viral claims. Here's what to know. Here is a sign pinned to the front of a school. The kids were taken to Springfield High School. Go there for parents. Because the schools keep getting bomb threats from conservatives. The Chaya Raichik stochastic terrorism has taken on mainstream appeal. Okay? It really is in a bad way right now. Okay? There are reports from Ohio of acid being thrown on Haitian migrant vehicles, of hate graffiti and vandalism of their property. The kids of Springfield, Ohio can't go to school. By the way, regardless of whether Haitian students actually attend the school, okay? These schools are being threatened merely by being associated with Springfield, Ohio. J.D. Vance is literally directing bomb threats against schools in his home, in his own state. We've got people in Ohio, local sheriff, write down all the addresses of Kamala supporters. In a post on Sunday from his Facebook page, Portage County Sheriff Bruce Zakowski appeared to encourage people to write down the addresses of supporters for Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris. Write down all the addresses of people who had her signs in their yards. A post on the page reads, it continues, so when the illegal human Locust, which she supports, need places to live will already have the addresses of their new families who supported their arrival. The post also included several screenshots of Fox News headlines and referenced Harris as a hyena. So, yeah, the local sheriff is wants to collect information on local residents.
I live 26 miles away. 33 minutes by car down 75. I have friends that live in Springfield. It's even worse than the media says it is.
Yeah, and this is really what I want to say here. We live in a world of reality. But in the world where Donald Trump is God King, where is God Emperor, right? The alternate reality where conservatives live right now. He is telling them that these Haitian migrants, these are subhuman and are invading Springfield, Ohio, any town USA. They could be anywhere among you. Be afraid. Be afraid of the stranger. They're being smeared as every kind of criminal. The New York Post running stories about how, did you know that there was a car accident involving a Haitian driver? And that's the news story. That's the entire news story. Who gets in the most accidents in Springfield, Ohio? Can anyone take a guess? It's white people. It's white people, because that's most of the people who live in Springfield. Yeah, it's young, reckless white guys. But do you see the New York Post writing, the major propaganda outlets of the far right writing about how white guys get in a lot of car accidents? No, you get fear-mongering about Haitians are ruining your lives. They're killing people. They're eating the pets. You're getting the scare quotes. And the thing is, to us, it's all ridiculous insanity, but to people in that alternate bubble, it is a real thing. I don't know how many of you guys remember back in 2016. There was the migrant caravan. The migrant caravan is coming. Thousands upon thousands of people from Latin America are coming across the southern border. Oh my God, the chaos. Who can imagine? And you know what happened? Nothing. Not a goddamn thing. In fact, that story disappeared the second the election was over. And the thing is, it's because the people who are pushing the story, they know what kind of politics they're pushing, and they're pushing it because it financially benefits them. We're looking at giant conservative super donors who they don't actually they know climate change is happening. They understand how the world works. But the main issue is they know that if enough people disbelieve that fossil fuels are killing the planet, they'll be able to get X amount of money off of their investments. They'll be able to make X many more dollars. And that's a price they're willing to pay at all of our expense. And I mean, again, it's not limited to Springfield, Ohio here. Here is fan favorite Kyle Clark. Adams County Sheriff's Office says Sunday's report of Venezuelans taking over a park, firing weapons in the air, and starting a fire in Arvada was a group of Hispanic men gathered for a car club. ACSO says one of the men had a Mexican flag, no criminal behavior. The Venezuelan gang story got blown so out of proportion that people see a bunch of Latino guys at a car club and go, oh, a dangerous Venezuelan gang, while they fly the flag of a completely different country. The facts don't matter anymore. Here's, okay, we have a huge issue for 4 hours now, going on just a quarter mile from my home in Arvada, Colorado, with Venezuelans taking over a park. The sheriffs won't even enter. They are on the outskirts watching, but won't intervene. What the hell? Thanks, Jared Polis, you suck. Clear Creek Park, and we've called 4 times, and they're dangerous. My husband just got off the phone with a sheriff, and they're gathering supplies and are headed our way. They are firing guns in the air. This is dangerous. Okay, let's just add, they started a fire in the park. Where are our law enforcement? Lauren Boebert, where's your voice now? They're taking over Colorado. We live in a world where conservatives are just primed to see any gathering of non-white people as a foreign takeover of America. That is the mental state Donald Trump has bestowed upon his ardent supporters. We are in a time when these people are completely divorced from reality, and they're ready to view anyone that their great leader or Führer deems an acceptable target. Well, were they firing guns in the air or not? Well, again, according to the first post, The police were already there watching them and no illegal activity occurred, so I don't think that the police would restrain themselves in that case anyway. But I mean, guys, this is where we're at, okay? I'm about to play for you guys a clip from Megyn Kelly's show. And again, we need to spend more time on Megyn Kelly because she's just getting way too much steam. So, the N-word guy? Yeah, the N-word guy. Megyn Kelly, the lady who said Santa Claus is only white. And this is the guy who runs National Review, the most prestigious conservative outlet.
But finally, he said something to the effect of, look, if we have to create stories in order to bring attention to what's happening, the media, he admits they made it up, right? As opposed to, and if you listen to the full clip, he said,
I think people should see this.
As by drawing attention to what's happening on the ground, it's just, as this goes online, you don't hate the media enough. Go ahead.
You remember Alternative Facts with Kellyanne? They did the same thing. She wasn't saying you make up fictions and pretend they're facts. You bring other facts to bear in the debate that are being ignored. And that's what he was saying. And I think it was in that interview.
Editor-in-chief of National Review.
Where Dana Bash says the police have gone through 11 months of recordings of calls, and they've only found 2 Springfield residents calling to complain about Haitian migrants taking geese from ponds. Only 2 calls. And I think one lesson of this whole story, people don't care about geese. People really hate geese. They all things considered, I think people would prefer Haitian migrants to come and take the geese off the golf course, right?
Neither of them bat an eye. Neither of them bat an eye. He really hard-r'd that. Yeah, he almost, he almost said it. Almost. But here's what I'm saying, guys. We are in the era where they're just going to go on a show and say it. Megyn Kelly gets millions of views. Wait, what did he say? He was trying to say Haitian migrants, but seemingly said the N-word instead, accidentally, because it's just a casual part of his everyday vocabulary. Because that's the kind of people that work in conservative politics. And the extra bit of irony is that in this video clip, Megyn Kelly and this absolute scum from National Review, they're defending J.D. Vance spreading lies about Haitian refugees. Because they're saying, oh, well, if he tells a lie, then that's really just aiming the conversation at a real issue. Except here's the thing about real issues. If you have one, you don't need to tell lies. You don't need to do that if you have a real issue, actually. So he lied so that he could tell the truth. Well, then you just tell the truth. I hate this man so much. Yup. And again, we need to understand where we're at right now, okay? The reason liberalism is consolidating power right now, that's actually kind of a good sign. The fact that we have Republicans endorsing Kamala Harris and abandoning Trump, and that the fascist movement is being made weaker, that's good. Now, but what that might mean long term, I think it means our job is very, very difficult. We've got our work cut out for us. Well, and what I'm trying to say is that what is good here is that liberalism is consolidating to try and crush fascism. And I think we're going to I think we're going to be able to do it, right? What comes after that is, I think, going to be a type of liberalism that's going to be very infuriating and frustrating, right? And so, well, that's the thing, Sophie. What ultimately is at issue here is that I think we're going to be able to defeat fascism this time. What remains to be seen is whether we can actually make the system ensure that this won't happen again with someone who's not Trump, someone who's more competent. You really think, no, did I say fascism will die with Trump? No. Fascism is a weaselly little ideology. It will worm its way. It's a cockroach. It's the shadow to liberalism. So, will fascism die with Trump? No. But will the current threat die down if Trump is defeated? I think so. The cult of personality he's built is not easily replicable with other conservative politicians. So, I think that this wave, once Trump is no longer animating it, I think we've seen where it goes, and it's with a wet fart of Ron DeSantis. People didn't fucking care about him. It's going to take time to build up enough effort. They're burning all of their political capital on this final attempt at the summit. So the idea being, if we win, we are very poorly equipped to like maybe prevent this from happening again, but that's still a fighting shot, as opposed to the fascists win and it's just game over. Get ready to go to the wall. Republicans are toast if they take a fat L in November and they know it, which is why they're accelerating. Flame about to go out, burning at its brightest. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of it, right? They've entered, and I think this is really what I'm trying to talk about and convey to you guys. This is their do or die moment. If they do not succeed, their careers are over. Like, if they do not succeed, Donald Trump is gone, and all of their entire positions that they've built are completely undermined by Trump just being gone, right? They want Trump to win so he remains in power because he is the guy propping up the entire status quo for them right now. If we get rid of Trump, they'll spawn another one. Sure, but that takes time. They tried to coalesce around someone who wasn't Trump, and he got utterly crushed in the primary. What I'm trying to say is we're not defeating the ideology here, but we are maybe delaying it for like another 20 years, 30 years, and that gives us time to fight and build our power, which is good, actually. Yeah, liberals are frustrating as hell, but they are our preferred opponent. They are the most susceptible to our arguments. They are the ones who are most to agree with us and most likely to move over to our position. And
the last
those are the people we want to
run
be
out of steam on the
on.
fascist train engine.
Yep, basically. I think debate lord lefties should start revving up to debate libs. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the richest place for us to build ourselves up. Yeah, that's the thing, social psych explainer. Liberals are people who can be bullied or argued or convinced to be farther left. Those are the people our time is best spent moving over. The election keeps me up at night. I'm scared for November. I am too. I think we have much better odds than we had under Biden, but it's scary, guys. Again, this guy is coming into power. If we lose, if we fail, this guy who literally believes black and brown people, all black and brown people everywhere, are subhuman.
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
He's going to be dictating I mean that, the largest removal of people in modern history. This is, and I had someone in my last stream in chat say, or maybe it was in the YouTube comments, say, Donald Trump is just saying that for show. No, he's not. No, when it comes to policies, Donald Trump has done his damnedest to deliver, and he's currently extraordinarily well equipped to do just this. Honestly, unilaterally, we need to be aware that the current threat against us is existential. And the stakes are not just for us as working class people, but it's especially harsh for anyone who falls outside of cis, white, heteronormative standards. Anyone who falls outside of those categories is in deep shit if this guy wins. He still has to get it through Congress, though? No, he doesn't. That's the thing. The Supreme Court gave him immunity. He can just do whatever, and any kind of legal challenge to his ability to do so, he has a stacked court. That's what I'm trying to convey this to you. If he, as president, ordered for the largest mass deportation in American history, we don't have the infrastructure for it. Okay? So, we round up a bunch of people. We start overflowing our prisons, our holding areas, our camps that we build hastily in the middle of nowhere. And then we start waiting for the infrastructure to be built. And what winds up happening? Well, it turns out it takes money to run these kinds of provisional camps. Turns out food needs to be brought there. People need to be housed, and that starts looking awfully expensive compared to an alternative, cheaper method, a final solution. If this is sounding similar to historical events, guys, it's because it is. That's what happened in Germany when Hitler rose to power. and started talking about how certain subhuman people needed to be removed, subhuman animals needed to be removed from society. And I'm begging you to understand, the moment we are currently in is a potential collapse for one of the world's strongest superpowers. That is not good for any other person on the planet if that large superpower falls to fascism. And there are no guardrails this time that would prevent him from enacting this kind of policy. We've been talking about Project 2025. I need to finish going over the rest of those training videos, but what those training videos show over and over and over again, what they reiterate over and over and over again, we're bringing you in to be yes men for Donald Trump. We are recruiting you, thousands of yes men, to rubber stamp anything Donald Trump does. And the thing I'm trying to convey as well is that what's currently going on in places like Aurora, Colorado, or Springfield, Ohio, where the threats are scaring residents of apartment complexes, or causing children to have to be moved to safe houses, or shutting down all schooling in a given geographic area, or causing KKK-like hate attacks on different marginalized people. What I'm trying to convey to you here is what we're seeing is the formation of the brown shirt movement that would enact the more stochastic, the more illegal aspects of Donald Trump's ascent to power. And I'm begging you, don't let this be normalized, because this is not normal, okay? And I'm not being hyperbolic here. The entire premise of tens of millions, hundreds of millions.
I talk about this with people in my town. They do not take Trump or the ramifications of mass deportation, social ostracization, all of this, seriously.
Yep.
Luckily, my state has no say, federally.
Thank you for the $5 donut, Charlotte Nova. And yeah, I'm begging you, when Donald Trump said he would have a total and complete shutdown of Muslim nations, he delivered on that. When he wanted to start black bagging protesters, he delivered on that. To think that he's not going to try to enact this with a group he has literally used as his own private army within the borders of the United States, ICE, he will do it. And he'll do it for the same reason that he didn't rent apartments to black people. Because he'll do it for the same reason that he didn't want black or brown people on the floors of his casinos as employees. Because he hates those people. He hates black and brown people. He genuinely hates them. It's not a bit that he's doing to appeal. He genuinely despises people who are non-white. He has a long and documented history of this. I don't know. I don't know what it is. What is it going to take for leftists to take this threat seriously? Genuine question. I see people in chat saying, well, he couldn't do X, Y, or Z, so that means he won't be able to do any of this. He almost overthrew democracy. He had a mob of thousands of people surround the Capitol while chanting to hang and rape politicians. I don't understand what it will take for people to understand. If he could have, he would have. We got very lucky that he could not on January 6th, okay? We got very lucky. But this time, he has tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of resources from all of the conservative think tanks being funneled into this Project 2025 and into his campaign, specifically so that he can undermine democracy, so he can destroy it, so he can be a dictator on day one. And the Supreme Court has given him the ability to become that. So I don't understand where this misplaced confidence that, oh, well, he's a big old idiot, so that can't possibly be a threat. Who got wrote about as a big old idiot who would never amount to a thing by liberal press? Hitler. People thought Hitler was a goddamn idiotic joke, and they said so in the press constantly. Fascists are not brilliant minds. They are dipshits of the highest order. But when they get power, they wield it as a fascist. Doesn't take brains to wield power. the incompetence is actually part of the ideology. You all realize that, right? It's anti-empiricism on principle. This is no different than when we begged people to listen to us about how much of a threat he was the first fucking time. Yeah. Also, wow, a bunch of interesting leaks here. Here's J.D. Vance endorsing Project 2025. Remember when people said, well, the campaign has nothing to do with Project 2025? We wouldn't have a gigantic framework to establish that Trump regime. Ha ha ha. Crazy.
I think that the thing that we have to take away from the last 10 years is that we really need to be really ruthless when it comes to the exercise of power. I was talking about this with someone.
You've heard J.D. Vance talk. He's a gigantic dipshit. This is a candid moment with J.D. Vance, where he actually says the quiet part out loud. He understands how to wield power.
Earlier today, where you remember there was some threat that congressional or Senate Republicans made. If you get rid of the filibuster, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And you actually look at it. Oh, this is not that interesting. They're talking about expanding the Supreme Court. They're talking about adding 2 senators from heavily Democratic places. I am a cynic about this and maybe even a little bit of a pessimist, but I think the challenge confronting American conservatives is that we have lost every major powerful institution in the country, except for maybe churches and religious institutions, which of course are weaker now than they've ever been. We have lost big business, we've lost finance, we've lost the culture, we've lost the academy. And if we're going to actually really affect real change in the country, it will require us completely replacing the existing ruling class with another ruling class. I say that knowing and hearing myself, it sounds really hard. It is really hard, but I don't think there's a detent with these people. I don't think there's sort of a compromise that we're going to come with the people who currently actually control the country. Unless we overthrow them in some way, we're going to keep losing. And that's the challenge. Now, it's
yeah, if only some way. You know, it'd be a real shame if, I don't know, Donald Trump spoke at the Heritage Foundation and endorsed Project 2025 back in 2022. That'd be real inconvenient, wouldn't it?
Is going to hell. The critical job of institutions such as Heritage is to lay the groundwork, and Heritage does such an incredible job at that. This is a great group, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your...
Oh, they're going to lay the groundwork and detailed plans. A Project 2025 plan.
Movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America, and that's coming. That's coming. Our country is going to hell. The critical job of institutions such as Heritage is to lay the groundwork, and Heritage does such an incredible job at that. This is a great group, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America, and that's coming.
Imagine what we could do with a public mandate. Imagine. But he has nothing to do with Project 2025. No. I don't know. Here, let's take a look at another clip. This guy is prepping for a fascist takeover of America. I want you to all be clear about that.
Agencies have zero trust in our Congress and our Senate, anything.
I'm
we
one
have
of
a
them
government that's not...
Oh my God, what happened to your pants, Donald? I know we're talking about serious stuff, but your pants shouldn't be up halfway up your shins when you sit down. My God.
Functioning right now.
Yeah.
How are you going to gain the trust back of the American people within the government? And are we going to see anybody held accountable?
Yeah. The answer is yes on the second. They're going to be held accountable. They've got to be held accountable. What they're doing, they're destroying this country. They're crooked people. They're dishonest people. They're going to be held accountable.
Any government agencies have zero trust in our Congress.
He's pledging retribution. I don't know how to make it more clear. Here's J.D. Vance on Twitter. In Springfield, Ohio, there has been a massive rise in communicable diseases, rent prices, car insurance rates, and crime. This is what happens when you drop 20,000 people into a small community. Kamala Harris's immigration policy aims to do this to every town in our country. Don't let biased media shame you into not discussing the slow-moving humanitarian crisis in a small Ohio town. We should'll talk about it every single day. Kamala Harris did this, and she'll keep doing it unless we stop her. Because they are talking about how immigrants are dirty and gross and bring disease. And I have to remind you all that rhetoric has been seen elsewhere. Mainly, it's been seen along the southern border. In fact, folks, if you didn't know this, a lot of interesting border policy was thought up in the early 1900s, late 1800s. People got really afraid of communicable diseases around that time. And so a lot of small towns along the border in the United States that relied on migrant workers started having border checkpoints where migrant workers crossing to do their labor for the day would have to pass through. And they'd have to be sprayed down with chemicals. Some that were so toxic and acidic that they would burn patches of people's skin or give them illnesses in their own right. And, well, wouldn't you know it, the idea for the showers used in death camps actually comes from the kind of chemical showering done on migrants crossing from Mexico into the United States. That idea came from us. We also really started that foreigners are dirty thing. We really embraced that. And then the Nazis took it from us, and now I guess we're just recycling it again here in the United States in the J.D. Vance campaign. So when I say we've gone 100% Hitler, this is what I mean, guys. And we're not going to talk a whole lot about the Laura Loomer thing just because it's so weird. It's so weird, and I don't want to speculate about it. But one of the things that Laura Loomer said on her Twitter was that if Kamala Harris wins, the White House will smell like curry. Which, one, curry smells delicious, so I don't really see the problem with that. But it's a racist. She's doing a racism. And one thing to remember about J.D. Vance is that J.D. Vance has a Indian wife. And when asked about it yesterday, J.D. Vance said, whether you're eating curry at your dinner table or fried chicken, things have gotten more expensive thanks to Kamala Harris's policies. This guy is so lost in the sauce. The Republican Party is so far gone down this rabbit hole. One of the president's personal aides will say that Indian people smell bad and will make the White House stinky. That's what she's trying to say. Because of the race of the person. And your wife is that race, and you just are like, oh, yeah, whatever. I'm throwing something out there. Again, this is totally side tangent. If someone says that about your wife or the group of people your wife is in, and you don't throw hands, you don't love your wife. And frankly, if you respond in the way J.D. Vance did, it kind of seems like you hate your wife. Oh my God. Do you think JD's wife is mad at him over this? Who can say? I don't understand the spouses of conservative folks. And by the way, remember when a bunch of people were saying, well, Donald Trump would never cut Social Security?
Very good. Let's talk about government reform.
Yeah.
So
a big one.
Elon is going to be on the cabinet and
yeah.
will be in the charge on the government efficiency department, if that's what you call it.
Yep.
How do you see, have you spoken with him about the plan, how he's going to do it?
Well, I've spoken, you mean with the president or with Elon?
With Elon.
With Elon. So I've spoken with Elon a little bit about it, and I think that the way that this is envisioned is you set up an organization with very smart people from the private sector and a few smart people from government, and you go in and you say, how are we going to fix all the broken?
And coincidentally, all of those very smart people will either be envoys of billionaires or the billionaires themselves.
Inefficiencies. And the thing that's complicated about this, man, is it's going to look much different in, say, the Department of Defense versus Social Security, right?
Very good. Let's talk about government.
We're just going to cut some entitlements. We're not cutting not Social Security. We're just going to cut some entitlements. We'll just make a very, very smart group of people, and whatever they say, Sure, maybe it's cutting Social Security, maybe the Department of Defense, maybe Social Security, potato. These people want to dismantle everything, okay? Everything. You don't have to be a genius to break the state, guys. They want to undo the New Deal. Okay, that is one of the key concerns that they have. They want to bring us back to unregulated capitalist days that led to the Great Depression. Okay, that's what they want. When he talks about maybe the Department of Defense, maybe Social Security, what he's saying is he wants to cut Social Security so that Mima and Pop, okay, are homeless at 65 years old. All right? That's it. These people want the elderly to suffer so that billionaires can make more money. That's it. We are at the inflection point. These people have gone full Hitler. When they're talking about cutting things, what it translates to is more people being homeless, more people going hungry. What answer do they have to Kamala Harris's child tax credit? They've got nothing. Once democracy is gone, they don't need voters. Exactly. Look at this.
I do also want to get your take. You've been around politics for a long time, and J.D. Vance was on CNN yesterday, and he is sticking by the now debunked claims by local officials that he and Donald Trump have spread, suggesting that Haitian migrants are eating pets in Ohio. Let me play what happened yesterday.
The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana.
See, this is what I mean. If this was Mehdi Hassan, he would never let J.D. Vance just keep talking and lying and lying and lying.
When called out for saying that he's creating a story, here, J.D. Vance tried to clean it up, but the Republican governor just yesterday from Ohio, he called this continued talk about it and this storyline disgusting. He said a piece of garbage. Does this continued focus and digging in by your candidates create a problem for you guys down ballot?
Well, this story is actually about a program, an illegal program, I would suggest,
it's
created Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Well, you can say
this is insane. By the way, they're legal. They're here legally as refugees.
Okay,
it's been paused because of all kinds of fraud. And listen, Kate, if you don't want to talk about the Cuba, Haitian, Nicaraguan, Venezuelan program that was created by Kamala.
Again, this is not a scary thing. They're here legally. There was a huge earthquake in the country that devastated it, and it's been devastated by natural disasters ever since. They're not doing great. Government collapsed. There are refugees who want to come here for the stability and to work.
Do you think we are as weak as the Weimar Republic, or do we have a good chance to stop this?
Well, Simric, we currently have a chance to stop it right now, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at here. We need to stop it now if we want to have hope of making things better. Do I think we're as weak as the Weimar Republic? No. I don't think we're as weak as that, and I think the fact that the liberal movement has been able to consolidate power the way it has behind Kamala Harris in such a short time really indicates that this might not be the time fascism succeeds in winning the election. Right now, though, it's going to come down to a handful of swing states, and it's going to be very scary on election night. Personally, I lean towards the hopeful view that we will win. I think the polling looks better and better for Harris, but there's not a guarantee, and that is deeply disturbing to me. You got to get out there and vote, but honestly, if you're worried about this, get out there and volunteer your time to do some canvassing, to do some phone banking, to do some text banking, because we need people out there doing all this stuff. Reach out to Progressive Victory, progress.win, okay? Do some volunteer work in their ground games. I've done it. It genuinely makes a difference. You can make a huge difference with, like, I don't know, 5 friends going out and doing this every other week or so, and from now until the election. You can make an actual significant dent.
Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, which brought tens of thousands of migrants to this country.
You can talk about this policy without creating stories. The governor of the state of Ohio calls it a piece of garbage.
Also, my understanding is that Springfield, Ohio requested these refugees. specifically because Springfield, Ohio hasn't been doing so hot economically. And so the presence of these migrants over time has caused an economic boom in the city. I think last year they reached over $1 billion in like city revenue, I think, either tax revenue or something like that. They passed a major milestone. The fact that they have an influx of new people has revitalized the local economy and is turning it into like a pretty happening area. This is literally spitting on the foundation of their own capitalist beliefs because they believe it will serve fascism. Workers are a resource that power the engines of profit. They make rich people more money when there are more workers. They don't care. They're willing to take a hit to the economy in order to consolidate their power around virtue signaling, power consolidating policies that would empower their fascist police state. That's what they're doing. That's where we're at.
There are 2 colleges that are shut down, they're going remote today because of concerns over the environment it has created around.
Well, they need the workforce, but it's not that the racist terror is a way to keep said workforce under control. It's that the racist terror can be used as a springboard to achieve the power that they want to use to consolidate a dictatorship, to consolidate an authoritarian regime. They need to get the power first. Genuinely, I don't think they care about keeping the workforce under control at all. I don't think that's a key component of what they're doing right now. What they're doing right now is an attempt to seize power. And once they get that power, they won't have to rely on just racist terror to keep a workforce under control. They'll just have the police state. They'll just have their own personal Gestapo. But here, let's finish this clip.
This. Does a digging in on the incorrect, not misinformation story create a problem for you guys down ballot? There is nothing wrong, as we've seen in recent politics, Congressman, saying I made a mistake or I have an evolving position, truly. But digging...
I mean, Malachi, frankly, you don't even need... The militias aren't the Gestapo, right? The militias, the far-right militias, and the insane far-right gunmen we've been seeing, or the bomb threat callers, or the people spreading lies about Springfield, Ohio, or Aurora, Colorado, that's the role of the militias and the insanely radicalized Republicans are as the brown shirts, not the Gestapo. They're the precursors. And there's already been a lot of comparisons between ICE/Border Patrol and the Gestapo. If Trump gets into office, that's his vehicle. That's his vehicle for having his own private police force. It's going to be more institutional than random militias, but the random militias are happy to do the violence. They're happy to do the intimidation. They're happy to call in the bomb threats and throw acid on people's property, or even on people. And yeah, we covered that story earlier about police officers taking down the names and addresses of Harris supporters. It's chilling stuff. I think we need to talk about it. We need to understand this is the moment in history we're at. This is what brings Reaganite politicians and political figures into Kamala Harris's camp. It is specifically for the self-preservation of the capital interests that remain in liberalism as a concept. And that sucks to see that kind of power consolidate. We're going to have a lot of fighting with liberals ahead of us, but I'd rather have that than fascism. So that is the fight I would like to have. And frankly, Simric, you asked earlier about the Weimar moment. The fact that liberals and that there is this consolidation across the political spectrum of liberalism into the Democratic Party, long-term probably has horrific results. Short-term is the needed consolidation to be able to defeat Donald Trump and the threat of immediate fascism.
In on this, when it's transparently seems no one locally wants this to continue, seems a problem for you guys.
What's a problem is the mainstream media refuses to report what caused this problem. You've had thousands of people dropped in this country. By the way, you say it's technically legal. Then why did they pause it? Because they had so much fraud in the program. The American people need to know that what the Biden-Harris administration did. Well, here, just let me finish, Kate.
But you and I, we talk policy all the time. We sit down, but this one. Then get past the wrong and then move on to the policy.
How about talk about the wrong? The wrong is that we've got an administration that is lawless, and they allowed migrants from these different countries to come into this country, and they flew them into places, Ohio and Minnesota and California.
If this story of
because the people who were elected there said, yeah, we will accept those refugees. It wasn't randomly distributed by lottery. The elected officials of those areas said, yes, we could use extra workers in our factories and in our industries. Actually, remember when we, I don't know, a year or so ago had a bunch of jobs that were going unfilled? Guess one way to solve that, guys? Migrants. Migrant refugees. They will work those jobs.
Being pets is completely factually wrong and is not true. You are okay with the story continuing and your candidate continue to talk about it.
I hope you start reporting on the problem that causes all of this, which is an administration, Kamala Harris's response.
It's the problem that causes all of this is just conservative fear-mongering and lies. This is like a look what you made me do type situation. Oh yeah? Well, we only lied because Kamala Harris did this bad thing. Well, then why are you talking about Kamala Harris doing the bad thing? Why are you also lying? Just talk about what you actually want to talk about. If there's a real issue, lead with the real issue. But they can't do it because they're full of shit.
For allowing thousands of migrants here improperly because they lied on their applications.
Hope, will you answer that yes or no?
You realize 1,000 of these applications
I take your hope
had 24,
on what we want to talk about,
24 phone numbers of dead people.
Congressman, the inability to answer yes or no on the simple question kind of takes away the heft of wanting to talk about the policy.
Well, I'd love it if you would talk about the actual policy created by the Biden
administration. Absolutely will
once
you answer the yes or no.
Again, if you need to start reporting on what caused this problem.
We are. Thank you.
We need more confrontational journalism. He can't answer, and he's not going to answer. She almost got there. She almost got the level of combativeness you need to be in order to get an actual answer out of these people. I keep coming back to this in particular here.
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
I keep coming back to this. We're at a juncture where, this is translating into real world people keeping their kids inside. Let's take a look at what even farther right outlets are reporting on right now.
They have to show it. They have to share it. They have to get these messages out there. If you see it, report it. Because no one else is going to do that if we don't do it ourselves, Charlie.
This is the Charlie Kirk Show.
It's disgusting, and it should not be happening in America. It shouldn't be happening anywhere else in the civilized world, but that's the reality. Okay, you look at Haiti, you look at the demographic makeup, you look at the average IQ. If you import the third world into your country, you are going to become the third world. That's just basic. It's not racist, that's just fact. You see that happening in these places. And again, these places, they have to show it, they have to share it, they have to get these messages out there. If you see it, report it. Because no one else is going to do that if we don't do it ourselves, Charlie. It's disgusting, and it should not be happening in America.
I know I let it repeat a little bit more here, but I would rather fight it again in 20 years after we've built up more political power, more political capital, more political momentum to actually win permanently. That's the thing. We were never going, this election cycle was never going to be the silver sword that slays the demon. It was never going to be what puts down fascism for good. The only thing that will put down fascism for good, by the way, is some kind of revolution or evolution of our politics towards democratic workplaces and more equitable distributions of power. Those are things that would actually be the way to slay the specter of fascism. However, we don't have that yet. And in order to get it, we have to build up a lot more power than what we have right now. The only way we're going to get that is more time fighting against liberalism, which we can get if we get Kamala Harris into office. But our adversaries here are literally going back to eugenics. Trump Jr. here is just is just out there saying, yes, Haitian refugees are naturally of lower IQ than the people in the United States. IQ is arbitrary. You can teach people to do better on IQ tests. And IQ tests are skewed towards the status quo of whatever society tends to develop the IQ test. God, 20 years is a generational difference. True. Here, can we talk about this? Genuinely, what is the daylight between this type of rhetoric from the Ku Klux Klan that's being circulated around Springfield, Ohio? What is the daylight between this and what Donald Trump is saying on stage when he calls them animals? When he says that they're not humans, they're animals. They say there's no place in America for this filth. J.D. Vance blamed Haitian immigrants for diseases in the community. We don't need more police officers. We need mass deportation. Hey, who's the guy currently arguing for mass deportation of black and brown people? Oh yeah, it's Donald Trump with Project 2025, who's just been empowered by the Supreme Court to not have any checks or balances. 1/4 of Springfield is already in poverty. Now $2 million is being used to care for these beasts of the fields. Oh, hey, look, they're doing the same dehumanization tactics as Donald Trump. America first. Hey, that's something Donald Trump says. Join us and stand against forced immigration. Trinity White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. What I'm trying to tell you guys, we've gone 100% Hitler now. There is no daylight. Our enemy has taken, I guess I was about to say taken the mask off, but put the hood on might be more accurate. We are up against a life or death struggle. These people want to kill you, especially if you are anything outside of what their worldview deems as acceptable. If you're trans, if you're black, if you're brown, if you're Hispanic, if you're any kind of non-white, non-cis, non-heterosexual individual, you are persona non grata under these types of people. I've dedicated so much of my channel to talking about Project 2025. It doesn't matter if he's not intelligent enough to pull it off, because he's going to surround himself with yes men who will just do it and break the system in any way that they see fit. It doesn't matter if there's not a way of doing it. He's not going to be held accountable for breaking the system. Yeah, the disabled. One of the big things Larry Elder was running against in California was the American Disability Act that requires buildings to be accessible to people in wheelchairs and such that. Making sure that disabled people have access to services and such. Republicans hate that. I just don't think he's capable of doing it. Those are not dice that I want to roll. I don't want to roll the dice on 4 years of the guy with the nuclear launch codes that is insane, simply not using them. He's a dribbling moron, but so is Hitler. The whole point of the fascist movement and the billions of dollars and millions of dollars that are getting thrown into this race is to make sure that there are people who will just rubber stamp whatever he says, no matter how moronic it is. If he says he wants to build a Yu-Gi-Oh! VR duel stadium, the Republican Party will throw money at that and try to make it possible. It doesn't matter. He's gonna have the apparatuses available to him to make those things real, even if it's not legal. It doesn't matter. We're post-fact. We're in a post-fact society. Right now, they are causing children to have to flee their schools in terror because there are roaming vigilantes operating on behalf of Donald Trump. And they're operating in his behalf because he said that Haitian migrants are eating cats and dogs. He's a moron, but when he says moronic shit, he has hundreds of thousands of people willing to act on it. To the point, up to and including killing people over it. I just don't understand what else it will take. And I just want to shout out here Matthew Ellis for really having an incredibly great thread about this on Twitter. I hate it too, but I wish the left would be more serious about the historical situation we find ourselves in. The established U.S. neoliberal institutional order is in crisis, and there is only one organized alternative within striking distance
His
of
family
power.
took over the fucking RNC. How are people this dense?
Yeah, he put his family member in charge of the RNC. We are this is the play. We're in kind of the end game scenario here. And what we have on one side really is the potential to make things better going forward under Kamala Harris, or just complete and utter collapse with disastrous effects for not just the United States, but for the entire world that is forced to interact with the United States out of necessity, at the barrel of a gun. So it is so goddamn important here to understand. This is in a way a kind of survival coalition that is forming under Kamala Harris. If we do manage to defeat Donald Trump, that buys us a significant amount of time. And that time will be useful to be spent organizing and building leftist power in productive ways within like the DSA or within the Democratic Party itself. We need to establish more people that fall into the camp of the squad, as flawed as they are, because no politician is perfect. We need more people to fall into this Bernie Sanders evolutionary camp towards a better, more democratic future. We need that. And so many people just aren't ready to contend with the reality that what we are witnessing is the death battle between two wolves. Okay? Two cornered wolves. They're fighting to the death. That's where we're at. But my hope is that if we manage to win here, if we get a Kamala Harris victory, we can continue making marginal improvements, working within the system, while we also build up political power on a state and local level. Because that's what we need to do. It's what the Green Party needed to do and hasn't been doing for decades. But it's what we as leftists need to do if we want to actually make things better. If we want to actually slay the specter of fascism. Again, these are projects that can sometimes span lifetimes. We're gonna do our best, but it's gonna be a lot of work. But yeah, this thread by Matthew Ellis is very, very good. Yeah, we need to accept the fact that things are not going to go our way for quite some time, and that feeling betrayal is an expired affect. We had decades of left melancholia for that, but it's too late for that to do anything anymore. Instead of feeling sorry for ourselves by thinking effective politics is simply pointing out when left liberal politicians betray the left, or wish casting that Democrats would win 50 states if they tacked left, didn't work for Bernie, maybe it's time to adapt tactics. And to be clear, I'm not posing any solutions here either, but I'm just sick and tired of all the fucking whining. History doesn't give a shit about what's fair, we're stuck in it. And that's true. We tend to think of ourselves as protagonists, that we're gonna reach a fair and just ending. It is very rare in human history that happens. All we can do is do our best. And it's not going to be fair. But you know what? It was never fair to begin with. It wasn't fair when we had the capital class trying to overthrow the feudalism. It wasn't fair then. The feudal lords didn't fight fair. And what? Bosses in the workplace aren't going to fight fair. Billionaires aren't going to fight fair. The deck has always been stacked against freedom and democracy, but that didn't stop us. And we're in a better place because millions of people worked for that over centuries. So don't be a little bitch. Get up there and do your part to keep that wheel turning. Because it's the best we can fucking do. We shouldn't fight fair either. I agree.
Deck is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and Swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.